Hi, good evening. This is Ed Day, Rockland County Executive, and welcome to the County Executives Forum. This is a monthly show that we do, and the purpose of this show is to let you know, the taxpayer, what you get for your dollar. Because at the end of the day, government is funded by each and every one of you. And I'm very proud of what we do in county government. Today, we're going to have a discussion with Joan Silvestri, who is our Commissioner of Department of Social Services. There are many departments in county government. This particular department is the largest department in county government, and also it performs a tremendous service to the community. This time of year, especially with the holidays, people who are joyous and celebrating, we see that all too often in the area. But the fact of the matter is, it's times like this that people who are in need feel the wants and needs and the pain even more. So it's great to have a part of our organization here in social services to be able to address some of the concerns and some of the issues that arise that could really hit any one of us. And I think that's what's really important to see. We spend our money wisely in social services. We call it DSS. That is something that's an investment within our own community to make sure that everybody in Rockland County has a leg up on life and always has an opportunity to be helped when necessary. So with that, I'd like to introduce Joan Silvestri, who is a Commissioner of the Department of Social Services. Joan, welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Joan, I'd like to start off. I'm very proud of the management team we have in Rockland County government. We have brought many people on who have done some dynamic things. You have a background in how you ended up as the Department of Social Service Commissioner back in April of this year. Could you share a little of your background with us so people have an understanding of exactly the kind of quality of leadership we have here in Rockland County?
Thank you. Yes, I have a long road to have becoming the Commissioner of Social Services. I started, my educational background is in accounting and finance, and I have an MBA as well. I entered, out of college, I actually entered into public service, working for the City of New York, the Comptroller's office there. And what I did for 2 years was actually auditing their HRA department, which is the equivalent of our social services. Yep. And I spent 2 years doing operational financial auditing. And many years later, the circle comes full loop. I spent about 16 years with Verizon in many departments, including accounting, finance, treasury, large team management and installation and repair, as well as years in labor relations and HR. After going home for a little while and raising my children, I came back as the Commissioner of Elections for the county, and then was appointed the Commissioner of Personnel with the background in HR. And then you appointed me in January. So my expertise is really in large team management, and having that accounting and finance background, and the HR background is very helpful in this Department of Social Services.
Well, it's interesting how, and I know not by design, but you kind of skirted over a path. Of course, we obviously don't have 2 hours to speak. But what I want to point out here is that all too often, people who are in government, or people look at government, think that promotions are all politically motivated, that people get into government, they get cushy jobs and sit in the the whole day and do nothing. And nothing could be further from the truth. The fact of the matter is, you, like someone you were in the private sector originally, but yes, in the real world, you get a job and you move up incrementally and you have ever increasing responsibilities. And that's exactly what you did within county government. You were in the Board of Elections, heading up the Board of Elections. Then you went to personnel, which is a highly sensitive position. Again, you mentioned in passing the issue of negotiating contracts is just part of all the matters of personnel you need to deal with. And then you went to the Department of Social Services. Share with us how many employees we have and what your yearly budget is.
We have nearly 400 employees in the Department of Social Services. Our budget is a little complex in terms of that many of the services are reimbursable into federal and state programs, but approximately $970 million of benefits flow through the department. Right. The local share on that is approximately 20%.
Right. So we have about 18 million. How much will we have? $180 million or so for local share?
Yes.
Now, the county budget, so everybody can put a comparison here, the county budget was just adopted $684 million. When you compare it to one department, you get a sense of the scope of that department. And we have 1,691 employees. So again, almost 25% or so are in DSS. So it's a tremendous organization within an organization. And again, not an easy gig to handle,
It's
obviously.
not an easy lift.
No, it's not. But again, this is where that appointment process that comes through experience and time is so critically important. And I think it's important that people out there understand that. I like to cover the most important part of this, the services. Some of the things that are out there that you oversee that provide help and assistance to people who are in need.
We cover the gamut of distributing benefits for folks that are eligible, low-income people, to providing services for families and children. We, in our eligibility section, we oversee the SNAP. Some folks know that as the old food stamps. It's a federally funded program. We have approximately 47,000 people in Rockland County that receive those benefits from us. We also administer the temporary assistance programs. About 1,500 folks receive those benefits on a monthly basis from the Department of Social Services. And approximately 100,000 people in Rockland County receive Medicaid assistance.
Right.
Those are the eligibility. We also have other programs that right now, very important two services that we have. We have the HEAP program that's available, and that's energy assistance for folks that meet certain criteria for low income.
Right.
This is the time of year
Yeah.
for folks to make sure, we are very dedicated to make sure that folks do not lose their utility service, their heat, their water during this time of year. We also have a unit that cares for, helps folks as they transition into work, single parents that are off to work, that the cost of childcare is so significant that it's important that we assist them. Part of what social services does is try to bring people to self-sufficiency.
Correct.
That's the vision, that's the goal, that's the mission, self-sufficiency. And when folks are out working and they're struggling to pay their rent and their utilities, and they want to supplement that income by a second parent or a parent working, the cost of childcare is often
Right.
an obstacle. So we administer a program in the county that allow folks to apply for assistance for those types of payments for folks that are 200% at or below the poverty
Right.
level. So right now we continue to accept applications on that. We're working hard with those families every day, and right now we don't have a waiting list. We were successful in getting that
Good.
down this year, so we're looking forward to next year and being able to assist other families. We're assisting about 1,200,
Right.
almost 1,300 families today on that program. Then we have another big part of what we do is our family and our children. We have our Child Protective Services. Everybody knows or have heard of CPS.
Right.
But it's much more than just the Child Protective. We have preventive services there. So families that may be struggling with some parenting skills, or parents that may be addictive and the children are somewhat at risk, but not in the normal sense that CPS would go in there and
Right.
take custody of those children. But we assist those families to get back and parents to be able to be good parents.
You know, it's interesting because I've seen, obviously with my background in law enforcement, I've
Yes.
seen the full scope of what CPS efforts are. Typically, the perception, as Joan referred to, is that Child Protective Services will go and address an issue where a child is at risk or injured, victim of a crime. But there is so much more that happens with CPS, and you know, it's important that people hear this because issues arise in families. This is just the reality of life, and you know, I try to tell people who can be a bit judgmental at times that, you know something, there for the grace of God goes I. You know, we hear you speak about you know, what we do in order to be stewards of the taxpayer money. And this is not about handouts. This is about lending a hand and offering a leg up, trying to get somebody out of a cycle that they need to get out of, whether it be poverty, whether it be a temporary setback in their lives. Many people live maybe paycheck to paycheck, maybe a month or two, and they don't have the money in the bank to survive past 2 months. I know folks who are professionals who lost a job or was forced out. They were finished up at a certain point in time. They had maybe 2 months worth of pay and whatever they had to draw on their savings account. And after that, their mortgage payments, they weren't going to last very long. So people don't understand that you could be homeless and in great need in very short order. And this is why I think it's important to speak of the scope of what we do. But the Child Protective Service piece really is, I find, to me, it's near and dear to my heart, because having gone through seeing the pain of children who've suffered, it's really heartening to know that we have such a great effort here in Rockland County and across the state as it relates to doing the right thing for our children. So I just didn't want to go too far in scope, but I think it's important for people to hear that.
It's important for people to understand, and people to understand it's important to notify us if they suspect something.
Yes.
Because don't think we're coming in to swoop in away the children from their parents. No, we're there to help. We provide a lot of support services, a lot of parenting skills, those types of things to prevent things happening down the line. So we're more about preventing, and that's where we spend our resources and our time, and then we spend a lot of time on permanency as well.
Right.
That children that, for whatever reason, come into our care in the county, and we have approximately 80 children that I'm personally the guardian for right now.
Wow. Yeah.
We have to, they're being raised by foster parents, and we're in always need of foster parents in Rockland County. And we try to get those children permanently placed in freed for adoption and then placed. And or reunited with their parents, their natural parents permanently. That's our first option, and the first thing we work to do. And when we can't do that, we work to quickly place that child in a permanent home. Because every child deserves a permanent home.
Exactly, absolutely, without a doubt. And the road to getting there is really what we're all about here in county government with the Department of Social Services. Now, you touched on something. We have numerous, a variety of volunteers services here in Rockland County who actually work hand in hand with DSS, and I would gather most people have no idea who they are. Just to share some of the volunteer groups that are part of the effort to do the best we can do for our citizens here in Rockland County.
It's a plethora of organizations, many of them nonprofit. Right now, as part of your effort, and over the last year, we've opened a warming center for single adults in Rockland. And we're housing, running right now, and the weather hasn't gotten that cold yet, approximately 30 individuals. And when you spoke before, it was very meaningful when you said that you're not sure that people are living paycheck to paycheck, and you think you're managing things correctly. And folks, when they think of people that are without a home, that are homeless, they're thinking of somebody that doesn't have a job, that is not, that doesn't have a family, does not have those types of things, and that they might be roaming the street. In case that's not the case,
Correct.
When I go to that shelter, when I go to that warming center at night, I am struck by the number of people that are employed, that are working to get out of that situation. They're just not where they can get to affordable housing. And they had very successful careers in many cases, and for no fault of their own, they find themselves in that situation. That warming center we partner with Helping Hands on, and it has been a tremendous example of good partnership between the private and government segment. And it's a great example because it also involves volunteers. So it's not all, Helping Hands doesn't have all paid staff. They're volunteers. And so it really is that combination. The employees in social services, I can't say enough about them. They take a lot on themselves. We can't provide certain things that a family might need. The funds don't allow for that. But our employees step up. They have a separate fund that they do fundraising for, they give out of their own pocket for, and is just a tremendous effort on there. Right now, when we open that warming center, countywide, we had a coat drive, and we have a room full
Yep.
from employees themselves.
Got a box right outside my office.
Right.
Yep.
And we have all sorts of winter attire. We don't want anybody leaving there without being
Yep.
equipped for the elements, and that was all by county employees.
It's interesting, the takeaway, and we use the word warming center for a reason, because the word shelter has a whole different connotation.
Yes.
We've always had an ability to provide shelter or help for families up at Pomona Complex. Now we have the warming center for single men. But this is not a place where people go and they just plop down, wake up in the morning, and off they go again. We bring other services to them and do what we can do, again, that leg up and helping hand to try to move them from the circumstances they're currently in, where we're providing a temporary assistance to them, and move them on on the path back to where they came from, and some success and some certainty in their life. But that's some of the services. You can just go on some of the services we bring. We have showering there, we have clothing, we have just share some of the things we do.
What we tried to do is make sure that folks, prior to this and not having one, helping hands and through some faith-based organizations, they would house folks at different churches and religious institutions various times throughout the year. But there wasn't always a hot shower.
Right.
There wasn't always a way to launder one's clothes.
Right.
And so we provide all that. And a hot meal comes in, it's served by volunteers, it's a conversation that folks can have. And what's interesting is what we wanted to add to that model, which is different from everywhere else, is I have embedded there early in the morning when people are getting up, my team from social services, to work with these folks, to put them, give them the services that they need. Some, as you can imagine, the breadth of services that they need are very challenging, and some of these people have chosen not to be part of a system.
Right.
And so my folks work with them each morning, just developing a level of trust and confidence that we can provide some level of help to them. And we've been successful, very successful over the last 3 weeks.
It's interesting when you hear, again, the typical takeaway one has, which is why I enjoy having this forum every month, so people can really understand better exactly what is being done. And again, out of respect for people who fund government. Government doesn't write its own check, and money comes from the people all the time. So we have a responsibility to be exacting stewards of that expenditure, and we do. But when you hear that, no, it's just not a bunch of employees who are overly paid, hanging around, just pushing paper around. You have volunteers from outside county government. You have our employees who are so dedicated. And again, when you get out around and speak to them, you see the things that they do in their own blood drives, coat drives. These are things that nobody has to do. United Way support. This is what the employees of county government do on a daily basis. They take pride in what they do, and they really make, I use the phrase, make Rockland rock. They make this county government move in a dynamic sort of way, and having primarily come out of a law enforcement and private sector background, I don't like using the word government because the perception is it's a staid, boxed-in kind of group, but use the word organization, and that's really what we have. And one thing, again, people I know have raised this issue before. The expenditures that we do have, we have to deal with the fact that all people are not honest.
That's correct.
We have fraud, and one of the biggest problems we have with fraudulent behavior is when it's enabled instead of stopped. When you set the ground rules that almost are begging for a problem, which we deal with the state at times, with the Medicaid scenario. Mm-hmm. But I'd like you to share, we had some great success over the years since I came into office in 2014 in what we call front-end detection. Let's try to stop the fraud before it starts, because once it starts, any monies we recover using investigative resources here that we pay 100% for, the state gets all the money. And the state has not always been a willing partner in trying to stop fraud. We've had to work hard here on our own. So if you share some of the initiatives we have in when it comes to fraud.
Sure. We have recovered through the front end and fraud detection on the back end approximately $7 million over the last 4 years.
And that's the equivalent to, folks, just so we can put a number on it, $7 million. We talk numbers all the time. That is nearly the equivalent of a 7% property tax hike on your county bill, just to put a number on it.
We have a group of folks, investigators, that work on these cases, that when we suspect anything the numbers don't kind of match. We are limited from regulation on both on the federal and the state level on what we can look for in the front end. But if there's any suspect activity, we can pick it up on the back end. And we have a lot of tools and sophisticated investigations that go forth. We work hand in hand with the district attorney on the prosecution of those cases. Many of those you don't see in the paper, but they're happening every day. We meet with him on a monthly basis, and we go over each of those cases. My investigators are going through reports that are available to us, looking for anomalies all of the time. But most important thing is, to have the funds available for those in need. There's only a certain amount of funds. They got to go to the folks that need them.
Now, how many investigators do we have in county government?
We have a couple of senior, about 6 in total. So about 6 individuals.
And New York State has how many investigators statewide?
My understanding is the Medicaid Inspector General has 4 that look at Medicaid fraud now. If we pick those cases up when we're doing our other work, we do refer to them. We've arranged for them to come down, interview, use our space so that we get to the bottom of those cases as well. But their resources are somewhat limited. I don't know why they choose to limit that, but we don't in Rockland. We find that not only when we say the $7 million, the more folks understand that that's what we do and we will prosecute, the less likely it's about to happen.
That's the deterrent effect, absolutely. And again, when we weigh our strategies against the expenditures, and we spend a lot of time looking at this, we just don't say, oh, we're just going to hire people. No, we look at the cost benefit, we look at ROI, return on investment for that expenditure, business observations that apply, where you can apply those precepts to our organization here in county government. But it's interesting that we look at the state. We have to function, and you kind of mentioned this. We have to function under state and federal rules.
Yes.
Oftentimes, I don't want to get in too much trouble, but oftentimes the search for common sense is a difficult one when it comes to some of these rules. So, we work very diligently with our state representatives to try to get them put some common sense changes into the rules and regulations, because again, if you create a system where fraud is almost welcomed, you're going to have it. And every dollar that's fraudulently gotten is a dollar out of our taxpayers' pockets. And it's important, I think, to folks here to know that we take every step we can to ensure that those dollars are spent wisely. I know we have a couple more minutes left. If you want to close up with something or any thoughts?
Well, this is the holiday season.
Yes.
We have a great group of employees that on Tuesday night we'll be hosting our foster families for a holiday party. Once again, not using taxpayers' money, but ones from us, as well as private foundations in Rockland that donate their buildings. They donate the food. So that we can have a celebratory season with these children that are struggling right now. Our employees are sitting a Christmas tree out in the Palisades Mall collecting toys there, and our employees are donating them in boxes, and we'll be able to distribute those to our foster children as well as our children. And we mentioned only very briefly, we do have a family shelter where we have 15 families that live with us, so we want to make those holidays special for them as well.
And I think the one takeaway, and again, just speaking about this for a half an hour or so, it kind of brings certain things to the surface. The takeaway I get today, I hope some of you have gotten that also, is that there's such a human component in what we do in government. This is not, the gray building where we have rules and regulations and we treat people like just like numbers, and that's all they are. There's a human piece to this, and these are the folks who work for the citizens of this county. I mean, I'm very proud of the workforce that I have. Tremendous employees, and every organization, bar none, has their issues here and there, but by and large, our employees in county government have done tremendous work in so many different areas. Again, I'm grateful for that. And with that, I know we're running out of time now. Joan, I want to thank you very much for being here today and telling us a little bit about what we do in service to the people of Rockland. And to my friends out there in Rockland County, thank you again for being here and just sharing some time with us to get really a better sense of what we do here in the county government to make sure that your lives are the best they can be. Again, I'm very proud of it. I would like to think all of us are proud of the work that's done, because at the end of the day, the work that's done in county government is done for each and every one of us in so many different ways. So with that, I just want to wish all of you and your families the very best of a holiday season, whatever you may be celebrating. This will be aired during the holiday season, obviously. So I just want to express that good thought. Peace, love, and harmony are sometimes elusive, but they're things that we should always strive for. And never forget that those who are around you during this holiday season may be feeling a bit despondent, may be having challenges themselves. Reach out to them. Do what you can do in your own way to understand those needs and wants are felt more keenly at this time of year, and try to make your neighbor's day just a little bit better. All right, with that, have a wonderful evening. And again, this is the County Executives Forum, and I'm your County Executive, Ed Day.